Hello everybody, welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. In case you forgot who we are in our absence, I'm your host Tristan Harlan, here with my good friend, my good compadre, my brother from another mother, Cooper, the Juice Box Mountain. Cooper, how you feeling, baby?
Oh, I'm feeling better than ever. I am so glad to be back. We were absent for a little bit, but we made some changes for the better of this show as we're going forward. And you know what? I'm just so excited to be back on this desk talking about A-State athletics.
Yeah, real quick before we talk about some of the things we decided to change, one of the big things is that James Lowry and Hannah Hatfield are no longer going to be our news desk correspondents on the show. But, real quick, just want to say thank you to those guys for putting in the long hours, putting in the hard work to make this show the best show on ASU TV. So to that, I say thank you. And, for those of you that may be missing them, have no fear. You never know when they're going to pop up. So make sure you're always watching Red Wolf Roundtable to see when they're going to come on the show to give their takes on A-State athletics. But Cooper, we missed a lot of things in our absence. One of the big things was the Arkansas State Red Wolves. They made a bowl game. Coach Jones came to Jonesboro year 3, just like he said, and took us to a bowl game.
They committed to 6, and you know what? It was a thriller to see. They beat Texas State at home. The crowd. We tried to do a storming the field. I don't know what it was, but there were students on the field at the end of the game. You know what? It was a great time. The band's on the field type moment. But, from the game, we went to the Camellia Bowl, and it was like from the start, corporate media did not want A-State to win that game. And you might be asking, Cooper, why are you saying that? Well, if you remember, it was an 11 o'clock kickoff and ESPN primetime. And they're like, it's Northern Illinois versus Arkansas State, and they put that dirty Razorback logo instead of the beautiful Arkansas State Red Wolf logo on the screen. And I was like, man, from the start, I was like, you got to be kidding me. The next thing you know, the dirty things we call refs took that game right from us on an onside kick. But besides the fact, you know what? We went to a bowl game, and we're only going up from there.
Yeah, Cooper, shout out to Jalen Rayner and the exciting football team with the season they had. A lot of people were doubting us after that 73-0 defeat against Oklahoma, the game we were actually at. So it was good to see, kind of the team rally around that, beat Texas State the way they did. But Cooper, we have an exciting show today. I say that all the time, but, this show, now that we're back, we're back in the groove of things, I feel like now we're making up for lost time.
We are.
And, basketball season has started. We're going to get into that later, but, I'm just happy we're back.
I am too, and like you're saying, it's exciting to be back, but there's just something a little bit more special about this show today. I'm just so happy to be back, and you know what? We're just back. We're back, baby.
Yeah, Cooper. So, real quick.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and kind of off the rocker real quick. I do want to give a shout out to Mr. Sullivan and his sports production class for actually being the crew that we have today and for the rest of the semester. Shout out to every one of those guys and gals that are running the cameras, audio, graphics, and so on and so forth. But, one of the big things, that we're going to start talking on after our break is, men's basketball. Coach Hodson, he's done a great job so far. Maybe not had an electric start that we've really wanted as an Arkansas State fan, but it's only up from here.
It is. It's year 1 for the Hodson era, if you might want to call it. And, he's bringing, if you've watched Alabama basketball the past couple of years, he's bringing that style of play here to Jonesboro. If you don't know what that is, they're making it rain from the 3 land. And you know what? When they're on, it's so fun to watch. But you know what? We'll get more into that. But, a lot of things have been changed here on Red Wolf Roundtable. And, I'm just going to do a quick little plug. If you want to just keep up with all the new things coming, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Red Wolf Roundtable, and you'll see plenty of great things if you're missing me and Tristan.
Yeah, Cooper, one of the big things that, I'm trying to bring back for the show, in collaboration with you as well, is the skits.
Yes.
We originally did the show. We had a lot of fun skits. We, Louis Walker, who's over there in England, the great land.
Yes.
Shout out my boy Louis. But it's just one of those things that the skits, they were kind of what made this show kind of our style of flavor. And so, I'm looking forward to getting back into that sort of action. But, like I said, man, I'm just happy we're back.
Oh, It's better than ever. It's better than ever.
Back by popular demand, some may say. During the break, I got a lot of messages saying, hey, when you guys coming back? Shout out to my boy Carter, one of the big factors that really wanted this show to come back. And, I just cannot stress enough how happy I am to be back at this desk, back talking with you guys about Arkansas State athletics.
Yeah, I know Carter, if you don't know him, he's one of our biggest fans, some might say. But he was texting us saying, when's the show going to come back? And we're just like, hold on, just wait. We're going to come back when it's time, and now's the time.
Yeah, Cooper, but, real quick, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some men's basketball right here on ASU-TV.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
When you say experience counts, it's experience that counts for a lifetime.
Boxes, I cannot fit in the boxes. Stop it, quitting was never an option. Exhausted, this passion is never exhausted. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it. Quitting was never an option. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it.
Welcome back to Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. Now it's time to dive into the men's basketball team, Coach Hodson's first era here in Jonesboro. And, it was recently announced that the MAC and Sun Belt Conference game was announced for the men's team here in Jonesboro.
Yes, we had an earlier one on this year, and we're playing the Ohio Bobcats at home for the MAC Sun Belt Conference Challenge. And, I like this so much because you'll see it. You have the Big Ten versus the SEC, the Big 12 versus ACC, and, this is what we need. This is what the smaller conferences need. We need to build that rival with the MAC, the AAC, with Memphis, and I'm excited, and, I'm looking at the schedule, and honestly, this is a very winnable game for the men's.
Right. And, you kind of touched on this earlier, but a lot of games for the men's team that may have not been winnable last season are now winnable this season. You touched a little bit on the three-ball threat that this team poses, but, looking at this team as a whole, this team has been doing really well, and one of the guys I want to kind of factor in on real quick is Caleb Fields.
Yes.
We were talking in pre-production with our producer, Easton John, about the kind of evolution of Caleb Fields and how he went from a threat inside to establish his three-point shot and really become a threat from all around the court.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just thought it was funny. We bring in all these top players, De'Aaron Ford, we got Dominguez in, we got Taryn Todd, and I just think it's funny, after bringing all these star players in, it's still Caleb Fields' team. You'll see him every game. He's dishing out assists. He's going to the basket, getting the and ones. And I just love it. Close games, who's at the free throw line? It is Caleb Fields. He's shooting the free throws to ice the game, and there's just nothing better than just to see our guy doing what he does best.
Yeah, Caleb Fields, you touched, it's really his team, and the big thing is what's Caleb Fields going to do next? It's kind of a wild point. You made this last year when Coach Hodson first got hired, that we really needed a small forward threat, maybe even a power forward that was about the 6'8", 6'9" height range, that was able to spread the floor a little bit and space the team to where they could really run this style offense. And who else with that but DeAndre Dominguez?
Yes.
DeAndre Dominguez has been very obviously one of the better guys in the Sun Belt Conference. Now, yes, we're not undefeated. We don't have only maybe 2 losses. But really the big thing is that when DeAndre hits his shots, it's kind of like Izzy on the women's side. When DeAndre hits his shots, for some reason, the rest of the team kind of evolves around him, and they all play well. I wish we would see Terrence Ford on the floor more because he brings an athletic style to the team that not a lot of teams can handle. But I understand he's still working out some things. He's still a little bit hurt from what I've been told. So we're looking forward to hopefully see him back by the conference tournament. But just looking at this team as a whole real quick, they're shooting very well.
They are.
Versus a Mike Bellato Arkansas State team to a Brian Hodgson Arkansas State team, this team has really established that this team needs to be guarded on the perimeter, not just inside. There's been a lot of games where maybe a lot of people thought that this team was out of it, but they've turned it around and were able to hit their shots. This previous week, when they were supposed to play Louisiana, but the power went out, and, now they're going to be playing today. It's one of those things where you got to look at it like this, okay? Arkansas State is always going to be a dark horse threat no matter what roster they have because you never know how they're going to play you. That's the beauty of the game of basketball. You could have 3 of the biggest players in the conference and still beat them. Or you could have 3 of the worst players in the conference and still lose to them. Basketball is just one of those games where you have to play the same week in, week out, and adapt to those changes because if not, you're going to have a guy like DeAndre or even Isaiah Nelson or even Caleb Fields where they're able to run the table on you, especially if you have a guy like Darian Ford or Avery Phelps able to be a sharpshooter.
Yeah, and you mentioned him, the Mayor of Bono. He has really found his stride this year. I feel like last year, he would have 2 games where he was hitting his shots, but it feels like this year he's just so more consistent. He's making the contested threes, and I really feel like Coach Hodgson bringing this style of 3-point shot play into the game has really worked to Avery Phelps' style play, and you've seen it on the court. But what I just love about Coach Hodgson is with the 3 ball, if this team gets hot in conference tournament, you've seen it every year. The teams that get hot during the conference tournament time during March are the teams that make the Cinderella run. And this team has all the talent in the world. You have Darian Ford, former Arkansas Player of the Year when he was back in high school. If this team starts clicking, they're going to be one of the most dangerous teams because like we've seen when he was at Alabama, Coach Hodgson, when that Alabama team was hitting their threes, they were a dangerous team. And you're seeing this with Arkansas State. The games we've won, we've really shot great from 3. And something I want to mention, we went to Louisville and beat them. Now, Louisville's not a good team, but they're still in the ACC. Big time win. And we've gone to Wisconsin, we've gone to Alabama, we've lost them, but we've stayed competitive. Unlike with Mike Bellato, it felt like every big away game we had against a Power 5 school, we got beat by 30. This time we're staying in the games.
Right, and especially one of the things, real quick, that this team has that a lot of teams back then didn't is swagger.
Yes.
They have a sense of swagger
Isaiah
about them.
Nelson.
Isaiah Nelson, stone cold Isaiah Nelson is the swaggiest player in the Sun Belt. And I know I just said swaggiest, but you know what? It's 2024. Happy New Year, everybody.
Y2K, huh?
Exactly. But real quick, we're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to dive a little bit more into the men's team and talk about the women's team right here on the Red Wolf Roundtable.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
When you say experience counts, it's experience that counts for a lifetime.
Boxes, boxes, I cannot fit in the boxes. Stop it, stop it. Quitting was never an option. Exhausted, exhausted. This passion is never exhausted. And you cannot stop it. Nah, you cannot stop it. Quitting was never an option.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. And, before we went to break, we were talking about the swagger, the cavalier attitude of the men's basketball team. But there's one guy we forgot to mention. DeAndre, still Dre, D-R-E, Dominguez.
Okay.
The man from UMass. He has been electric so far this season, averaging about 13.3 points, shooting just about 45% from the field, little at over 30% from three. But, man, what an attitude and aura he brings to this team.
Yes, he is the guy we were talking about during the highlight reel. The forward that can space out the floor, open up the paint for Caleb Fields to drive. And, when you were watching those highlights, if you saw him, he could have a guy right in his face. He'll just pull up, shoot a little three, drain it every time. When that guy is on, oh man, is it fun to watch. Not only can he space the floor out and shoot the three ball, but he can get in the paint and throw down some nasty dunks.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that I've realized about DeAndre, and even Isaiah too for a little bit, is how they play to the student section when they play here in First National Bank Arena. If you go to the games, which I hope you do, student body of Arkansas State, I've already said enough about that. But if you go to those games and you really watch how they play in that first half when they're on the side of the student section, they really play to the crowd in a sense of if DeAndre rolls, gets a dunk, or Isaiah gets a putback rebound dunk, then they're really looking at the crowd. The crowd standing up, shout out Phi Delta for being one of the only fraternities that I've seen really get hyped, get loud, get rowdy at the men's basketball games that they've really been able to do, that they really fed into the game itself, which makes these games winnable at home for the team.
Yeah, and this team feeds off of energy. If you've gone to the games, you notice when the crowd gets into it, you have Coach Hodson pumping up the crowd. He's saying, get up on your feet. The team feeds off the crowd energy, and you see it, like you're saying, when Isaiah Nelson, he gets a block down on the student section and it goes out of bounds. He'll go up to the student section, flex a little bit. You see DeAndre Dominguez, he's high-fiving them, he's doing all that. And this team loves the energy. They love when that crowd gets going. And there's been a couple games this year that we've had a pretty good, decent crowd, and the team has just done tremendously well.
Right, that's your favorite word, tremendous. But, speaking on that just a little bit more is the biggest thing that I've really noticed about this team, and, this kind of goes back to playing it them versus the Bellato era Arkansas State team, is Coach Hodson really kind of feeds into the crowd more, and Coach Bellato, with all due respect, never did. He was kind of more worried about the game itself and the team themselves instead of, letting a big play happen, standing up, saying, okay, guys, get on your feet, get loud, get rowdy. And it's kind of been a point to prove that Coach Hodson, coming from the SEC, has been able to play in the SBC and really shown that what happens when you have a dynamic crowd. Now, again, you could go back through any episode of this show that we've really said, okay, go to the arena, go watch the teams, go to the arena, watch these teams. But now that people are actually starting to do it, now you see a little bit more of a really dynamic team that they've been able to carry on themselves. And I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this, but would you say that winning at home has been able to help this team more prove themselves on the road against bigger competition like a Louisville or Alabama or Wisconsin?
I think so for sure, because when you're playing at home and you win, you're giving fans a reason to come back. And then when you go on the road, you're like, we have a home game this Saturday. We're on the road on a Wednesday. We have a home game this Saturday. Let's play our butts off. Let's try our hardest. So if we do win, and when we beat Louisville, that next home game, we had a big-time crowd. And this team, they feed off energy, and you've kind of seen it with Coach Des. She does the same thing. When Izzy Higginbottom hits a three, she's pumping up the crowd. Same thing with Hodson. When you have Caleb Fields getting about 3-and-1s a game, he's getting with the players, they're hype. And I don't know, I just feel like this team from last year, they're having fun out there. It felt like with Coach Bellato, it was you do this, have fun after you win. But during the game, you see, like you're saying, they have that swagger with them.
Right, and I will say this. The song that Colby Wood chose for their intro video, that fits the team perfectly. That
Beautiful.
is, I'm a Key Glock fan myself, but that song, when they come out, when the video plays and they run out to the fight song, that song just fits the team, not to a T, but it fits it better than some others that I've seen over the years. But, just looking at it, going against a UAB team that a lot of people thought were a lot better than they were when they came to First National Bank Arena, it really showed that when this team gets hot, you better watch out.
Yeah.
I mean, Caleb Fields hitting it from three, DeAndre Dominguez hitting it from the corner, Taron Todd being able to do what he does. And, speaking of hitting threes, Avery Felts, which, we got a lot about to talk about him later,
Yes.
but Avery Felts has been kind of this player that, you always kind of put an asterisk on the scouting report for, because you never know what he's going to do. Either he could come out and give you 13 and maybe shoot 4 from 12 from 3, or he can come out, he can give you 50 shooting 16 for 16 from 3. Now, I don't know if that math adds up. Don't ask me. I'm just speaking. But my biggest thing is you never know what Arkansas State team you're going to play, and that's why I think Arkansas State has a case to make for being the deadliest team in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, and speaking of the Mayor Bono, every time he's on the court, you have the coach just yelling, "Get on the shooter, get on the shooter." And you know what? Don't let him be open.
Yeah, cool. Well, I think we talked about a little bit enough of the men's basketball for now. When we come back from break, we're going to talk about Coach Dez and the Arkansas State women's basketball team right here on the Red Wolf Roundtable.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
When you say experience counts, it's experience that counts for a lifetime.
Boxes, I cannot fit in the boxes. Stop it, quitting was never an option. Exhausted, this passion is never exhausted. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it. Quitting was never an option. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. Now, we're going to talk about the Arkansas State women's basketball team and why nets ain't free.
Yes, you have the Caitlin Clarks of the world, but here at Arkansas State, we got the better version of Izzy Higginbottom. I mean, if you want to watch an athlete just take over the game whenever she wants to, you need to come to our women's game. The crowd, they have been noticing, they have been on watch. This women's team has all the talent to do so, but the only problem is who's going to be that number 2 when Izzy's not making her shots.
Yeah, Cooper, and you make a good point, and you're seeing some stats on your screen about the women's team and how they've played this season, but one of the big things, and you kind of brought it up, and I'm glad you did, is who's going to be the number 2 on this team. Now, you play the devil's advocate of last year versus this year, and you saw people like Anna Griffin really being able to hit her shots in stride, especially in conference play. Lauren Pendleton, LA, shout out her, friend of the show, friend of mine, friend of yours. She's freshman of the year. She won freshman of the year, first one since, I think, 97. And, last year we had a player by the name of Jade Upshaw who was able to hit the 3 off the bench when needed. But this year, I don't know. It just seems like, with all credit to Lauren and Anna, they just aren't the same player that they were a year ago. And, Winner's on the team now, Coach Rogers' sister from West Virginia. She's a rebounding menace. When you need a rebound, you need a clutch pass. Winner's that player. But the number 2 is a big question mark for me because Izzy, she at one point was like the 3rd top scorer in the country, which is crazy for an Arkansas State player. And then you have her drop 30 a game for like 3 games, or if not 20 more. In Arkansas State, they're winning like over 50% when Izzy scores 20 or more. But the biggest thing is when will we see a definite number 2 come into play? Now, and I like it from a stance of you never know who's going to pick up the slack if Izzy doesn't shoot the ball. But the biggest question mark will it be Lauren or will it be Anna?
Yeah, when you're thinking about teams, they're saying, watch Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson and the Golden State Warriors. Who's going to be that Klay Thompson? Because yes, it's always good to be like, well, with our team, you don't know who's going to be that number 2, but you honestly kind of want to so you can have certain plays around that number 2 when the number 1 isn't really filling her shots. If we can find that number 2 player at the beginning of the year, I was like, oh, the number 2 is definitely Lauren. She was going off, but, everyone gets their cold streak. I'm sure she'll be back better than ever. And same with Anna Griffin. I thought it was going to be Anna Griffin for a little bit last year because, at the end of the year when they went on that run, she was knocking down every single shot. She was shooting lights out from 3. But now it's like we're kind of in a question of who's really going to be that number 2. And along with, we still have questions in our starting lineup. Who's going to be the big man to start the game? Who's going to be the 2? Really, the center and the power forward are still up in question every home game.
Right, and a big thing is, and Coach Des, she's a great coach.
Oh,
she is a player's coach. She vibes with the players. She vibes with the crowd. She vibes with the student body. And I've talked to her about it before. The biggest thing is, and this is my thing with Izzy, and I'm a big Izzy Higginbottom fan. I love watching her game. She's a student of the game. She studies it. She plays it. She lives it. But the biggest thing with Izzy Higginbottom is, and you can look at her stats and say, okay, well, you don't have much to go off of. But when you're averaging about 22 points a game and you're shooting almost 50% from 3 and almost 50% from the field and over 90% from the charity stripe, you're thinking, okay, how much can you really criticize and ridicule a player? But the biggest thing with Izzy is, and I don't know if it's a her thing, I don't know if it's an offensive scheme thing, I don't know if it's a lack of having a second option thing or what it is, but when Izzy Higginbottom when she has 5 points and she starts getting double teamed, she freezes. She gets double teamed, they slack off to go play man on man, and then she doesn't shoot as much. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it's a her thing, Rogers thing, offensive thing, I don't know. I cannot tell you what it is. But my thing is when you're averaging that many points on a team like this that really should be able to win more games than they are, then you got to start shooting the ball just a little bit more. I'm not saying go out there and shoot 100 shots a game. I'm not saying go out there and shoot 60 shots a game. But when you have an open look, you got to take it. Not drive in, not look for Kendra Gillespie, who hasn't made a layup in probably 6 weeks. But you got to look at it for the open shot. When you're averaging that many points, you got to take that shot. Now, I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm not saying this to be rude. But Izzy has got to step it up.
Yeah. Now, I see where you're coming from, but also I feel like when Izzy isn't really on her game, like you're saying, when she gets 6 points and she's being double teamed, she kind of strays away from shooting. You really see her become more of a team player. That's what I like about Izzy. When she may not have her 30 points a game like she normally does, say she only has 10, she'll make it up. She'll have maybe 8 points, but 10 assists to go along with it. Now, I get what you're saying. With a player like Izzy, you can go without having 10 assists. We need you to be having maybe 10 more points instead of 10 more assists. But that's just what makes her a great player she is. Because Coach Des, she's an amazing coach. I mean, she even got recognized by former NBA player Isaiah Thomas. Not the Bad Boy Pistons, Boston Celtics legend, in my opinion, Isaiah Thomas.
Right, and just speaking on the number 2 thing real quick, I need Lauren to step up as well.
Yes.
Lauren, she has games where she scores a bunch, and then she has games where she doesn't even touch the ball. And then she goes down, listen, it's one of those things where we're just going to have to save it for next week.
Because
there's a lot to talk about.
Yes.
We've got to make up for a lot of time here, people. But, ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed the return episode of Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. Remember to follow us on Instagram and Twitter when you can. And remember, every Friday at 4 o'clock Central Time, watch Red Wolf Roundtable here. Where else? But on ASU-TV. See you guys.